everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am finally back. I am so happy to be back. As many of you guys know, I've been gone for about 7 weeks now. I went on a trip. My husband and I drove to Florida. We were there for about 6 weeks. We got home last week, and it's taken me several days to unpack and get my house kind of back in order. We still have a lot of stuff. We still have a lot of work to do on our house, you guys. As many of you guys know, my house is in a little bit of a disarray because we had almost 9 feet of snow this previous winter, and our roof leaked and it kind of messed up. Our roof leaked and it went down into the sheetrock in the wall between my living room and my master bedroom. So there's like a cutout in my living room and there's a cutout in my master bedroom. And while we were gone, before we left, we still had a ton of snow on our deck. And my son, when he got home from Florida and Hawaii and stuff, he went to Hawaii anyway, he got home about the end of May and sent us a photo of our deck. Our deck is completely destroyed. So I'm going to put the picture up here on the screen so you guys can see it. All the weight from the snow made the deck completely collapse. So we've turned it into our insurance. Our insurance is going to pay for it, thank God. So the insurance is going to cover it along with the roof leak. But yeah, so we still got a lot of work to do, but I had so much to do, like unpacking and getting clean. And my house was dusty when I got home because I hadn't dusted it for like 6 weeks. And it was driving me bonkers. I was like, there's no way I can go straight into filming without getting my house back in order. So I am finally back. I'm so happy to be back. And today's video is just going to be a very chilled, laid back video, kind of talking a little bit about my trip. Funny enough, I only made it into like the first week of our trip. But I am using a few new products in today's video, but I'm so happy to use and fall in love with this new palette from Sydney Grace. They collaborated with my friend Mary from Glitzy Fritzy, and I am just so proud of her on every level. And I could not wait to get home and try out the palette and use it. And so that's what we're going to be doing in today's video. I am so incredibly proud of her. It's a complete honor. It really is. And Mary deserves this. Hands down, she's incredible. And for her to collaborate with such an amazing brand, such as Sydney Grace, it was like match made in heaven. And the fact that the palette is called Blessed, I mean, it's like just perfect. It's absolute perfection. So we're going to be using this palette in today's video. And yeah, if you guys are interested in the palette, I will link it down in the description box down below. It's available now on the Sydney Grace website. She has the light and the deep version, which Sydney Grace is amazing for offering that. I love that. I will also leave Mary's YouTube channel and her Instagram and stuff down in the description box down below. And yeah, I'm just incredibly proud of her. This is a huge, big deal. This is a big deal, and she earned it. And I'm so, so, so proud of her. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Let's go ahead and jump straight into the video. Wow, it has been a minute since I have sat down and filmed, and I'm kind of excited and a little nervous about it. First off, I'm very happy to be back, although I wish I was back filming, but in Florida. Like, I kind of want to live there, but just can't live there at this moment. It's just not going to work. So we just got to get our ducks in a row so that we can work on eventually relocating to Florida. And supposedly my kids want to be there too, which would make me so happy because ultimately I want to be where my grandkids are. So I'm hoping that we all kind of eventually end up there. We'll see. But we're going to go in and start playing with makeup and kind of chit-chatting. Now, the first thing I got to talk about is my face. So I don't know what happened, but I've had a reaction to something and I don't know what it is. You guys see all these little bumps right here? Like, I don't know what happened, but this has been there for a minute. This has been there since before I left. But the last week or so, I like broke out here and I've got all these little dots all over my forehead. So I think I'm going to go ahead and use this. This is the By Mario Surreal Skin Foundation. Didn't work out for me very good in Florida, but it is a beautiful foundation here in this dry, crusty weather that I live in. Oh, I am somebody that loves the humidity because I love the way it makes my skin feel. And yeah, Like, you don't have the best hair days, but oh, the way that it makes my skin feel is just incredible. Oh, okay. So where do I begin? We drove this year because we took the doggies with us. And as you guys know, I was very nervous about that. I was thinking, oh my gosh, what did we get ourselves into driving across the country with 4 dogs? But they were amazing. Absolutely amazing. Now, my golden retriever, he has a bit of anxiety. And the vet told me, he's like, if he starts acting like he's a little anxious or whatever, you can give him some Benadryl and that will help him like kind of relax. Sure enough, it did. And it was a blessing because he could enjoy himself. But I didn't give it to him the first day. Okay. So we didn't end up. Okay. So first of all, I have to mention that we were late getting out of here because my husband's job, we were not able to leave. So we were actually supposed to be in Florida on May 1st, and we didn't leave until the 3rd because my husband just could not get away. Like with his business, you know, if you're a business owner, you know how it goes. Like, things don't always go your way when you own a business, right? And so we just couldn't leave. We left on the 3rd. We booked it to Florida because my husband had planned a party that Saturday. So we left on a Wednesday, and my husband had a party with all of his friends planned that Saturday. And, you know, my husband grew up in Florida. He's from Florida. So all of his friends are there. And, you know, he only gets to see them once a year. They all come. We always have a good time around the pool and just kind of have like a pool beach party. And it was really important for us not to miss that, right? And have to cancel. So we left our house around like 11-ish, but we had to run a bunch of errands. So we actually didn't get on the road till like 1. We live in Utah. Okay. It's like, what is it? Like 2,200 miles or something to Florida. I think that's what it is. I think it's 2,200 miles to where we're going in Florida. And so this foundation is beautiful, isn't it? Oh, I just love the way it makes my skin look. So we leave Wednesday and drive all the way to Kearney, Nebraska. And I think we got to Kearney, Nebraska by like 1 o'clock in the morning or something like that, 1:30. It was a long drive. So we get there really late, and poor Rowdy, so he's my golden retriever. He's the one that's kind of nervous and has, you know, some anxiety. Well, we stopped at rest stops and stuff along the way to let him out and go to the bathroom and feed him and stuff. And poor Rowdy, he was waiting to use the bathroom all day. Like, I think he thought that we were going to go home. He didn't either pee or poo the whole day because I think he kept saying, well, I'm just going to go back to my house and I'm going to be able to do it in my own, you know, yard. So that poor dog was just a nervous wreck the whole time. And when we got to the hotel, which let me just tell you, that was the hardest part, is finding hotels that allow 4 dogs. Let me just tell you, 4 dogs. 3 bigger dogs. So I have a golden retriever, German shepherd, Bernie Doodle, and a Shih Tzu. Most of the places are like, oh yeah, like, you know, 50 pounds or less. You can have 2, you know, 50 pounds or less. So like trying to find hotels that allow all of those dogs, that was the hardest part. It really was. And it wasn't like I could plan because, you know, when you're traveling, especially with like children or dogs and stuff, it's really hard to plan like where you're going to stay as you go. So we just kind of drive until we're like, okay, it's 6 o'clock. How much longer are we going to drive? Let's stay here, right? So we found this hotel. It wasn't the nicest and I was a little bit sketched by it, but I was so tired. And we got there at like 1:30 and we were going to sleep, get up by 7, out the door by 8, and get back on the road, right? Poor Rowdy, he was so nervous that when we got to the hotel and I'm in there like taking off my makeup and brushing my teeth and all of that, he is like waiting for me because it's the first time he's ever been in a hotel. He's never been in a hotel. He doesn't know what is going on. Now the other dogs are like along for the ride. They don't care. They're like ding, ding, ding. But Rowdy was very, very nervous and very unsettled. And we got a room with 2 queen beds. And as soon as I laid down, that dog jumped up next to me and did not budge the whole night. Like, he stayed so close to me and was so just scared and didn't know what was going on. And I felt so bad for him. And then I was like, you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to give him some Benadryl and let him like calm down, because this is just not good for him to be so nervous. The next day we got up and he finally went to the bathroom, which was like, yay. And, you know, we did all the things, got him all ready, loaded him back up, and on the road we went. And then we drove from Kearney, Nebraska to Murfreesboro, Tennessee. That was the longest day. So this is Thursday, and that was the longest. Like, I think it was like 13 hours or something, 14 hours. Long day, because we have to stop, get gas, we have to stop and feed the dogs, we have to stop and let them go to the bathroom. And so it was like a 14-hour day, and we were completely delirious. My husband drove for most of the day, and then I drove like the last, I think, like 3 hours. And Rowdy was doing so much better that day. I gave him the Benadryl, and I think he was like, okay, so maybe I'm not going home, right? And so he was starting to adjust to being in the vehicle and just being okay with it. But the Benadryl helped so much. So when you dose the dogs with Benadryl, they give you kind of a guideline of like, this is the max and this is the minimum. So I was only giving him the minimum just to see how it would work. And the minimum worked perfect. It was enough to kind of make him a little bit sleepy and just happy and, you know, not completely like dosed up, right? I didn't want him to be, you know, completely like out of it. But, so yeah, the minimum dose worked perfectly. We drove it the longest day. Oh my gosh, it was so long. And we got to a hotel that night. So then the next day we drove from Murfreesboro to Florida, right? Well, we drove through Atlanta. We get to Atlanta at like 2:00. And I could not believe the traffic in Atlanta. You guys, it was 2:00 in the afternoon. From the time we entered Atlanta city limits to the time that we ended and got on the other side, it was 4 hours of traffic. 4 hours. I mean, I could see spending 4 hours of traffic in rush hour, but it was 2:00 in the afternoon. So as we got on the other side of Atlanta, we stopped at this Steak and Shake, and this guy was telling my husband, because, you know, I stayed in the car with the dogs, and he went in and got it because I guess their speaker intercom wasn't working, so he had to go in and get it. So Kevin's waiting for the food, and he's like, so he just starts chit-chatting with this guy, and he's like, yeah, so what's up with Atlanta? Like, he's like, it's been years since I've driven through here, but like the traffic was absolutely miserable. And the guy was like, holy crap. The traffic here is always like this. He's like, it's always like this. You just plan for it, And he's like, there's 7 million people in Atlanta now. And I could not believe it. I could not believe that Atlanta had that many people. So then we made it through Atlanta. We got to Florida, to our condo in St. Augustine at like, I think it was like 11 o'clock Friday night. It was kind of perfect. Dogs were so good, you guys. Like, I cannot stress how good they were. When my kids were little, we used to travel with them all the time, and they were really good riders. I had good kids. I had good riders, but I was really nervous about the dogs, and they were amazing, you guys. I could not have asked for a better experience with our animals, especially Arlo. Like, he's 8 months old. He's a puppy. And I kept thinking, what am I thinking taking this puppy 2,200 miles in the vehicle? But when we would stop at the rest stops and kind of let him run, and, you know, we'd find a spot where there was nobody around, right? Which didn't always work, but we would let them run and kind of get some of their energy out and take them on walks. And a lot of the rest stops that we stopped at, they had like a dog walking area where you could go around and walk them and kind of get some exercise. And it was amazing. Like, they were so good. So good. I'm going to pause on my trip, and we're going to talk about this beautiful woman right here. Her name is Mary. Her channel is Glitzy Fritzy. I met her through Mel. So Mel and Mary were very, very close. And I had always heard Mel talk about Mary, and I had spoken to Mary a few times. And then oh, I got a scratch. When Mel passed away, I instantly like went to her. We cried together over and over and over. Marco Polo'd, cried. And I was on vacation when this launched and this was sent to me. I didn't get it until I just opened the box a couple of days ago. So with the day of this launch, I didn't even know about it. And then I found out a couple of days later and I literally started crying. I was so happy for Mary. This is major. For Mary to collaborate with such an amazing brand as Sydney Grace and for her to do it, I am just so proud of her. She and I have collaborated before, so we did a full face of Lancome. That was a video that her and Mel were working on doing together, and then unfortunately Mel passed away before they were able to do it. And so I kind of stepped in and we did it together, which was amazing. But Mary is the most loving, giving, just amazing person. And for her to do this just truly makes me happy on every level. I'm so proud of her and so happy for her. And I cannot wait to use this palette. So I'm going to read you on this. It says, on August 19th of 2020, I asked the Lord in accordance to his will for my own palette collaboration with Sydney Grace. That very day, I began designing what my someday palette would look like if he blessed me with it. Over these last couple of years, I finalized the names, colors, fonts, etc. and waited for Sydney Grace. What came next is this, my most treasured and reached for everyday neutrals with signature pops of color. I want to thank you for the important part you've played in my life, and I've prayed that you are blessed beyond measures in your own. Remember, you are a blessing, so believe it. So be a blessing and fulfill it. So the palette name is Blessed. And it launched on June 7th. Of course, like Sydney Grace always does, they have a light and a darker version. It says Sydney Grace and Glitzy Fritzy. Like, it's truly incredible. Like, this is everything to me. Oh my gosh, I can't. This is the deep palette, you guys. These tones, these are like everyday palettes. I am so excited for her. Oh my gosh. This Irish heat. Ooh, look at that. Wait, hold on. We all know that Sydney Grace has one of the best formulas out on the market. We all know that. Like, they have some of the best formulas. And these shades are incredible. Sugar Tiger, Be a Blessing. Oh my gosh. These are so pretty. Look at that. Shy Guy. Of course, I'm going to... that purple. That purple is so beautiful. My Buttercup. Oh my, get out of here. So Merry. You guys, these are gorgeous. So pretty. Like, I am absolutely obsessed with those tones. Oh, Mary, you did such a good job. And what I really like is that she has like this transition shade right here called My Savior, which I love. And then she has all of the shimmer shadows over on this side. And then you have the mattes and the neutrals that you'll use on this side. Like, I love this. I love it so much. Oh my gosh. Now, my Buttercup, if I'm not mistaken, my Buttercup is what she used to call Mel, my Buttercup, which is so cute. So I love that she honored Mel in that way. Congratulations, Mary. I'm so excited to use this palette. The lighter palette is exactly the same, but it's just has different depth, right? This is the lighter, this is the darker. Mattes in the light palette are a little bit lighter than the mattes in the dark palette. But I love that Sydney Grace does that because if you have a darker complexion, some mattes you need those mattes to be darker and have more depth, right? So Sydney Grace is the only one in the market that does that. They're the only one in the biz. And I mean, kudos to them because it costs more money. Like, people need to realize that it costs more money to create two different palettes. And kudos to Sydney Grace for spending the extra money to make a light and a deep palette and they're an indie brand. They're not a huge brand, right? But they do it because it's the right thing to do. And I love that. And I highly admire them for that. Okay, I'm going to start with the Makeup by Mario E7 brush, I think is what it is. The writing has wore off. If it's different, I'll let you know. I'm going to go into the light palette and I'm going to grab this shade right here, which is called Family. And I'm going to use that shade on my outer corner, kind of placing it down like right here. I mean, can we just speak to the pigment? That's one thing you never have to worry about with a Sydney Grace palette, is that you never have to worry about patchiness. You never have to worry about pigment. Their palettes are always the bomb. Like, they always pull it out. I've never picked up a bad palette from Sydney Grace, ever. They're just always so good. So I'm going to kind of keep that right at the crease, and I'm going to build it a little bit more. That's why I went in with the light palette, because that shade would have been even darker in the darker palette. So I'm going to take a fluffy brush, like a crease brush, and just kind of soften that up on that crease. I'm going to dip my brush into Cinnamon Girl, which is right above it, and blend it out right there. So I'm going to take a little bit of Irish Heat. And when I say a little bit, I mean a little bit, because I know how their palettes are. So that Irish Heat just is such a gorgeous shade. And I want to take like the lightest amount and bring it all over the lid. But I'm doing it very gently because I don't want it to like be too thick, because I want it to be very soft in the crease and stuff. And I like it because it's similar to Scarab in Mel's palette, but it's not as strong as Scarab. So it's a lighter version of Scarab. Now I'm just taking like a kind of soft, fluffy brush that's more dense and kind of blending out that line a little bit. Now I'm going to take a tiny bit of Pita and bring that right there, just to kind of add some color to this, like right there in the crease, but in the softest amount. Oh, that's so pretty, right? Now to kind of make it pop right in the center, I'm going to go into High School BFF, the gorgeous silver, and kind of pop it like right here. Just to give that little bit of wet look, right? Now, full disclosure, I took palettes with me on my trip, but I didn't end up wearing a lot of eyeshadow. I do that every year. You guys. I take all this makeup and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to totally need that, and don't end up using half of what I take. I just don't. Let's go ahead and put on some concealer. Don't have a new concealer. I do really want to try the one from, I do really want to try the Natasha Denona one. So I've been hearing that it is like the concealer of the century. And I don't know if that's like completely out of proportion. It probably is, but I have been hearing such good things about that, and I'm excited to try it. How many of you guys have bought the new Natasha Denona concealer, and what, like, do you like it? Like, is it overhyped? Is it what everybody says it is? I'm so curious. I got to put a little concealer over that spot because it's, and I'm going to get a lot of slack. Gary, isn't too much concealer. Well, actually, I only dipped into the thing once, and I'm using what's on the sponge to kind of spread it out. So, oh well. I don't really like a lot of concealer, but with this concealer, it's so forgiving. I have a hair right there. It's so forgiving that I can totally do that with it. So I'm going to take a smudge brush, and I'm going to go into Family. Eyes are pretty much done, you guys. Let's move on to face. And I'm going to use the Makeup by Mario Sculpt in medium dark. I wore this a lot. This I did wear a lot. But anyway, back to my story, because I kind of got sidetracked with my eyeshadow and stuff. So we get to Florida. We have my husband's party with his friends. And earlier in the day, I had taken Zoe out to go potty. And before we left Utah, my husband had said, like, he had taken Zoe out. Zoe's my German Shepherd, right? And I think she's 8 this year. Anyway, he had taken her out and he's like, gosh, she seems like she's like straining to pee. And I was like, uh-oh, like we need to keep an eye on that, you know? And then on the trip, she did really good. Like she, you know, constantly was hydrated, constantly going to bathroom, wasn't straining. And so we're like, okay, she's good. Well, when we get to Florida, you know, Friday night and then Saturday, she was straining to pee. And so I walked over after she peed and it was straight blood. Scared the crap out of me. I told my husband, you know, I'm like, later on, like when everybody leaves, I think we need to take Zoe to the vet. And so I called around, like while he's entertaining with friends and stuff, I called around and found this emergency vet in St. Augustine. And they were amazing, by the way, like amazing. And they were like, you know, it's a first come, first serve basis. And if, you know, you come in and there's a more serious situation, then they're going to obviously take priority. And I was like, well, you know, that's cool, blah, blah, blah. And so everybody left right around like 10:30. And so we loaded Zoe up and took her to the vet. The thing that I liked about this emergency vet versus my experience in Utah is every time you take him to the vet, they give you like, I got to put some gloss on or something. Every time you take your dog to the vet, like nothing's an itemized situation. You go, you have this done, you have this done, you have this done, you have this done, and then you get the bill, right? Well, not at this place. So what I respected about this place is that they said, okay, so it's $100 for the visit, and anything we do as far as tests, ultrasounds, whatever, we will bring the sheet into you, show you how much it's going to cost, and have you sign off on it. And that's exactly what they did. Hold that thought for a minute. We're going to talk about these. So these are the new from Makeup by Mario. These are the new Soft Pop Plumping Blush Veil, which these I bought while I was on vacation. Along with the 2 glosses from Charlotte Tilbury, which I'll get into that in just a minute. Oh, and hold on. I also bought the new shade from Charlotte Tilbury. This is called Pinkgasm Sunset. And I don't love this color. I don't love it. It's not my favorite. I tried it while I was there and it's just too red on me. It just doesn't look flattering on me. I'm going to put a little bit right here and just kind of show you what I'm talking about. But I don't really love it. I tried it a few times and I didn't love the color on me. Wasn't my favorite. I think it might be a little just a tad bit too dark for me. And she launched this. She also launched like 2 limited edition gloss shades. And I bought both of them. And the thing that I don't like is they're not very pigmented. So on the models, it looked like they were going to have good pigment, but they don't. So the pink one is just like almost clear. It has a hint of pink, but it does have some sparkle to it, but it's just more of like a clear, sparkly gloss, which I don't really like that about that, to be honest with you. I don't like my glosses to be clear. And then this one, which is in the shade Pinkgasm Sunset. So the light pink one is just Pinkgasm. Pinkgasm Sunset has a little bit more color, but still not a lot. Like, I kind of wish they had more color. I'm not going to lie. I have kept the Pinkgasm Sunset in my purse, but I don't know. They're okay. I definitely prefer the Pinkgasm Sunset over the original Pinkgasm, but I don't know that it's worth the money because they're quite pricey to not have more pigment. I was looking for way more pigment, like a pop of color, and they just don't have it. they don't. Let's talk about these blushes. So I've used them a few times and I do really like the formula. It's really kind of soft and creamy, which I like. But I've noticed that I could completely overtake my cheek with it. It's quite pigmented and I don't mind the formula. I think it's a pretty formula. So this one on the top is just peachy and this one is Pinch Me Pink. There's not a lot of differences between the two colors other than Pinch Me Pink is more of a cool tone color. So that's what it looks like right there. So that's the peachy one and that's the pink one. And they're really pretty though. They're really kind of flattering and real natural on the eye. I did order this and I just got it a couple of days ago. This is something I wanted to order. And this is the NARS new liquid blushes. I got it in the shade Orgasm. It's the Afterglow liquid blush. And this is the first time I just pulled out of the box. I haven't used it. This is Orgasm, which I've always loved the shade Orgasm from them. I thought it's just such a beautiful shade. So I'm thinking about using this today on one side of the cheek and then the blushes from Makeup by Mario on the other. Really pretty though. That's so pretty, right? This is the doe foot. And I think I'm just going to put like a dot of it on the back of my hand like that and go from there. I'm going to mix the bristles into that color on the back of my hand and apply it on my face. Okay, so that is one layer. It's a little light. It has some sparkle though to it. So look what it looks like here on my hand. You can kind of see that sparkle and shine. So I'm going to put on a little bit more. So that's layer number 2. What I don't like already is that I'm starting to see some of the hyperpigmentation and spots coming through. So a lot of the time there are certain cream blush formulas out on the market that if they're too shiny, they will almost make your foundation look transparent. And if you're wearing like a full face of makeup and you want that stuff covered, that can happen. So you can see some of like my hyperpigmentation and dark spots kind of poking through. And I don't really love that, to be honest with you. So I don't know. This might just be something that I wear on those days that I am like wearing more natural makeup. So let's go to these. I'm going to put the peachy one on this side. I'm going to go in and apply it here. Isn't it pretty? See, now the difference between this formula and the formula from NARS is that this is shiny too, okay? So the Makeup by Mario also has a shine, but it has enough pigment to still allow the foundation to cover up those spots. So if it's more of a sheer formula and shiny, that's when you'll start noticing that your makeup is becoming, your base is more transparent. So that's kind of the difference. But I think these are really beautiful. Like, I think he did such a great job on this formula. And I'm going to take the pink one and put it on this side, even though I have a ton of blush on, but that's okay. So I'm going to put some on, and then I'm going to go over it with my foundation brush, which is what I like to do anyway, just to kind of diffuse it. But the thing that I do like about these blushes is that they're exceptionally pigmented and you don't need very much. Back to my story. So we take her to the vet and they had another German Shepherd that came in that had like 7 seizures that day. She was like 3 years old. Absolutely broke my heart watching that dog have seizures. Oh my gosh. Anything with children and animals, like watching a child suffer or watching animals suffer, just eats me up. So I was struggling. By the way, this is the new brush from Sonia G. Beautylish and Sonia G were kind enough to send it to me in PR. I'm so excited about this brush. I just barely got it today. I haven't even had a chance to wash it. So this is the sheer buffer. You guys, look at this brush. Look at this brush. That is going to be a phenomenal brush. I can already tell. Now, we take Zoe in, we get her, you know, we tell her what's going on, and they said, okay, we're going to do a urine sample. And so they come in, gave us the sheet. I think the urine sample was like $75. And so we signed off that the bill was at that point $175. Now, I just have never had that experience at a vet, ever, especially an emergency situation. I've never had that experience. So I appreciate the upfront, like letting you know exactly how much it's going to be. And so we take her outside and we try to get the sample, and she strained to pee. And when the lady brought it was like a big, like silver, like handled spoon, she brought it up and it was straight blood. And she's like, yeah, she's not urinating. And so we brought her back in. The vet said, okay, let's do an ultrasound to make sure that she's not have a blockage, right? So we need to make sure she doesn't have a full bladder, because if she has a full bladder and it's not coming out and blood is, then there might be a blockage, maybe a kidney stone or whatever. And so we were kind of going down this rabbit hole. By the way, this was before Samantha March has gone through what she's gone through with her dog. So this was like, it was that first Saturday of May. So that would have been, yeah, May 6th. Okay. That's when all this was going on. And so anyway, they take her into ultrasound. By the way, they didn't charge me for the ultrasound, which I thought was pretty nice of them. They didn't charge us a dime, but she had an empty bladder. So they were like, okay, we're okay there. So he said, look, we could run all these tests, we could do all these things, but he's like, I think it's a UTI, and I think that maybe we should try the antibiotic first. And if the antibiotic doesn't start clearing this up pretty quickly, then we need to go down the rabbit hole of running more tests and doing more invasive things, maybe an x-ray, But he's like, let's start with the basics and then go from there. So we got some antibiotics, and within 2 days, she was like a completely different dog and was perfectly fine. I think she was on the antibiotics for like 10, 12 days, something like that. She was a completely different dog. Absolutely so grateful, because then after all that happened, I had heard about what happened with Sam and her dog, and that is just unbelievably heartbreaking to me. My heart breaks for what she's going through with her animal, knowing how much I love my dogs and how much of there's so much a part of our family that and I know we all have to face that. When you have an animal, like I have a 15-year-old Shih Tzu, so I get it. It's not easy. It's so stressful just worrying about them all the time. But the fact that her dog was just so healthy, and all of a sudden they're telling her, hey, your dog's going to die. Like, you should probably consider putting it down. It like has to be absolutely the worst. And so I feel so bad for what she's going through. And I was just completely beyond grateful that Zoe is healthy and she's doing great. You know, count the blessings where you get them, because life is hard, right? We're going to move on to powder. I really need to calm some of this shine down because I'm like a shiny mess. So I'm going to use the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Powder. And I'm going to put some of this like right here on the center of my face, all the way underneath my eyes. But I do kind of bring what's left on the brush up underneath there just to kind of calm everything down. But I do love this foundation. This foundation is so beautiful. It just didn't work when I was in Florida. Like, the humidity, did not love it. Not even a little bit. I'm going to use the Buffer Brush, which is my favorite. I love this brush. So when I saw this brush, I was even more excited because I absolutely love this Buffer Brush. In fact, I just washed it and it just sprays beautifully when I wash it. But this is the newer brush from Sonia G. I think this is the brush that she launched right before this new one. This is the Sheer Buffer. Let me explain to you kind of like her vision behind this. Let's see. So the Sheer Buffer was designed for a sheer diffused application of cream products. It's not as dense as the Fusion brushes in her collection, therefore it won't have the same strength. The application technique depends on the formula of the stick and also the precision that you need. So this is what I love to do with this brush. For example, with the Merit Bronze Balm, instead of applying this stick directly onto the face and then blending, she stipples or paints the surface of the Sheer Buffer with the stick, meaning like this. like this. Okay. And then buff the product that is on the brush onto the cheeks. This allows me to apply a stick bronzer and achieve a very natural result without having to previously paint my face with the stick. Less effort and a softly diffused application, which I'm kind of excited to try that. Let's do it. Ooh, okay, hold on, you guys. Hold on. This is a brand new brush that I usually like to wash first, but yeah. Like, this definitely diffuses the product. I could see this being a really good brush for the sculpt. This one from Makeup by Mario. So this is the Transforming Skin Enhancer. If you guys love this skin enhancer, I think you would love the way this brush applies it, because it is just exceptionally soft and really, like, if you're using, okay, so meaning that if you're using a brush like this, which is what I typically use, you're gonna have lines that you need to blend out with your foundation brush, right? So you guys noticed that when I was using this type of brush, or even this type of brush, I went over it with my foundation brush, because using a brush like this, you're gonna get lines, right? Because, like, see where it ends right there? Like, you're gonna get lines. But the way that this brush works is that it stipples it so softly. You kind of see there's like a density, like there's some density there, and then this is more of the stippling. It gives you the ability to have that stippling effect where it's not so dense. I'm excited to wash this and continue to use it. I'm gonna take the buffer brush, go into my Hourglass powder, and I like to just tap the powder on. I don't like to do this with it. I like to just, with this brush, you can like kind of do that like stamping motion almost, and it kind of like packs the powder into the pores. I love this brush. Okay, so as for lipstick, I'm going to use this one from Dior. This one is in the shade 253 Rose Feline Satin, I think. It's such a pretty one to throw on the lip. It's really natural, but really feminine, and it kind of has that little bit of baby pink. It's really pretty. Okay, so this is the final look. I loved the way this makeup look turned out. I love just turning on the camera and chit-chatting and kind of updating you. I didn't get through my whole trip. I just kept talking and getting distracted. I have so much to talk about on my trip, which I will continue on to do these get readies with me and kind of chit chat. I pretty much made it through like the first week of our trip. So anyway, the star of the show in today's video is definitely the collaboration between Sydney Grace and my amazing friend, Mary from Glitzy Fritzy. I'm just so excited and so proud of her for creating this beautiful palette. And I am just so honored to call her a friend. And I'm just in awe of it. I love the eyeshadow look I created with it, and I can't wait to continue to play with it and create more looks with it. I will link all of her information down in the description box down below, but yeah, what an honor. She is incredible, and I am just so happy to see Sydney Grace teaming up with people like Mary, because she is one of a kind. I know that Mel is so proud of her, and Mel is shining down from heaven and just so incredibly proud of her. So that's it, you guys. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me in today's video. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys all in my next video. Love you. Bye.